Good morning, girls. This is a video I made for you this past Friday. This is a friend of mine, Sarah. She is turning a new page in her life, and I'm helping her celebrate by doing a makeover on her. I'm doing this at her house. She was so kind to allow me to come over and make up her face and record it. Here I'm using the Sephora foundation brush, and I'm putting on the Makeup Forever primer. Sarah's, as you can see, is a blue-eyed blonde, and she has sensitive skin, so she has some redness. So I'm trying to neutralize some of that before I begin. I did not feel like using the green to cancel out red. I decided that I would work with it, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a little bit. This is the Kiko foundation. It's a long-lasting foundation, and it's in a very pale color. It looks like it's going to be too light, but it adjusts. I found that it does adjust. I'm concentrating it in the center of her face where she's the reddest. She had a great idea of setting this up in front of a painting in her house. I'm not used to filming in locations other than my studio at home, so obviously it would have been better had I got her lined up better. Also, we were kind of pinned behind her dining room table. It was really heavy, and excuses. So I'm continuing to apply the foundation. At this point in the makeup application, she was very cooperative, sitting there quietly with her eyes shut, talking to me. As you'll see, as the makeover progresses, her friends show up and things get rowdy, and it becomes a little more challenging to do a makeover on her. Sarah and I are cousins by marriage. She's married to a Gibbons, and my maiden name is Gibbons, and it is the same family because they anyway, just take my word for it. So looks like here I've sped up the makeup application. I'm glad, because that was getting boring. Okay, so that was the Kiko. This is the Estee Lauder Double Wear. I'm using it as an eyeshadow primer, and I am spot concealing a couple of places on her face. She's an esthetician, and she also practices the face shaving like I do, and she had a little spot nick. She had hit a milia on her forehead, and it caused a boo-boo. So that's what I was spot concealing. And that I just showed you, that was the Jaclyn Hill palette. I'm using one of the beigey nudes from the top row in that palette to lay down a transition color in her crease. I thought I had cut out most of this where I'm standing in front of her. That was one of the two ivory colors from the top left-hand corner of the kit. Alright, so I have not started the transition color yet. I'm using one of those ivory colors in the top of the kit to, I covered the entire eye with it so that the other colors would blend smoothly. Alright, now we're going in with the crease color. It's one of the beigey nudes from the top. I use those puffs on my pinky to anchor my hand. Keeps me from pulling up the makeup off of their face. And it also keeps me from putting fingerprints or just annoying them by the heat of my hand being on their face. It's more comfortable for the client for me to have that puff between me and them. I chose these warm colors on her. I felt like it would make her blue eyes pop. I kept this pretty conservative because Sarah doesn't normally wear much makeup. She definitely does the no makeup look every day. Probably does not wear foundation at all. Probably just wears a little bit of concealer, mascara, probably fills in her brows just a little bit, and maybe some lip balm or a neutral lip gloss. So this is outside her comfort zone for me to. This was probably way outside her comfort zone, piling on this much eyeshadow. At the end of this, okay, now she's starting the misbehaving already. The selfies and the text. Okay, so I guess that was her attention span. I exceeded her limit of sitting still, and we've only just begun. So this was Friday afternoon at around 2:30. I had already done one makeover earlier in the day. Okay, here I'm showing her the lashes. Oops, see, she shook her head no. She said nope. And I said fine. I won't use them on you. I'm taking the brown from the bottom row of the Jaclyn Hill palette and smudging it on her bottom lash line. I'm not going to use any black. I'm not going to use any finite lines. Everything's going to be, I wanted her to shut her eyes so I could do the top lid, and she's just looking down. So she can't not be in charge. All right. So I'm defining that outer corner. Got both eyes defined now. Gonna diffuse it a little. Get that brown buffed into that lash line really well so it looks natural. It just makes her lashes look fuller. I want her to be comfortable with the look. I don't want her to feel like she needs to rush and go take it all off before she spends time with her friends. Her friends will show up here in a little bit. You'll see an elbow here and there, and you'll see her chatting with them. When she becomes a lot more animated, you'll know that her friends have arrived. Still with the selfies. Trying to buff that out real good. So all of these colors are from the Jaclyn Hill palette. I didn't pull any other palette out. The makeover I did earlier in the day was for a photo shoot for a salon, and she also was a blue-eyed blonde. Her eyes were not, her eyes were more gray blue. Sarah's eyes are blue. The girl earlier in the day, I also used the Jaclyn Hill palette. Let's see, what do I have here? Okay, and we'll spot conceal. Her little spots were very resistant to my efforts. I had to go back a couple of times. Now, now I'm working underneath her brow to highlight her brow, and I'm using concealer to do that. Sorry about I guess I left some of these places in here where my back was blocking it so that I could tell you what the products were, but I failed to do that. If you have any questions about what products I use, they'll all be down in the description box. Alright, this is a Berry M brow kit. I think Sophie Showhat sent that to me. It's a pretty dark brow powder. I was trying to work fast because I felt like I was losing my control of my client. She was getting fidgety and moving about. So I was working fast and grabbing the first thing that I could lay my hands on. So this Berry M palette has a real deep chocolate brown. It's the color of dark chocolate brow powder. And I went ahead and went with it. You'll see later on in this makeover, I bring some. Okay, she's looking at my microbladed brows now. And I'm explaining to her that I have one more visit. It's been a little more tricky than I thought, securing that 6-week follow-up microblading appointment. Alright, so I'm brushing up in the front like your brows do. They brush up, grow upward in front. Later I'm going to go back with the foundation brush that I used. Okay, there I am. I'm buffing it down in the front, so the fronts will be lighter than the rest of the brow. I don't know what, she's being very cooperative here for me to work on brows. Not sure why. You'll see later that it's like putting tennis shoes on a toddler later. It becomes crazy. All right, there's a matte white in this palette, and I'm using that under. I used it in the front to go over that front portion of her brow to bring the depth down, so have a little bit of gradient effect. Okay, and now I'm cleaning up around the brows, making them look a little bit Instagrammy, but not too Instagrammy. You can see her reds coming through the foundation still. The thing is, if I had made her a blank canvas, she would not have liked the makeup at all. She would have jumped up and run back and immediately taken it all off. So she needed to look perfected, but still look like herself. She didn't want to look like she had a mask on. And so far, I feel like she still looks pretty natural, pretty fresh. All right, this is a MAC mascara. It's the one that comes in a tube. Looks like a toothpaste tube. And I'm using the MAC fanned mascara brush to apply it to her eyelashes. She has pretty good eyelashes. I'm not sure if she may be using the Rodan and Fields lash whatever growth. That's Taco whining under his breath. He might have a tummy ache. So I'm still working on those lashes. She says that's her. If you're gonna whine, you have to go out. All right, I had to give Taco to Pat because he was whining. It's like I'm performing rocket science, narrating a makeup video. Nonetheless. So while you got such a good view of my hair, it's beginning to look like the neutral brown is fading and it's kind of orangey. Next time I go back to Ulta for my hair color, I'm going to have her. We spoke of this earlier, that I was going to try to put ashier, a more neutral brown, or may have to go the opposite way, something ashy to tone down some of that brassiness. But if any of you are fans of the Royals, you recognize my efforts at copying Princess Eleanor's color. All right, looks like I'm finally finished with mascara. All right, this is the Lancome concealer. It's one of my favorites. I can't remember what it's called. It'll be in the description box. The color is porcelain. It's very brightening. That's a Sigma brush. I use that most of the time for that particular application. Usually I have the client look up high while I'm concealing under their eyes so I don't get concealer in their lashes. But it's difficult for her to carry on a texting conversation while I'm, if she's looking straight up at the ceiling. Alright, so I'm highlighting down the center of her nose. I'm not going to use any shiny highlight on her. I'm just going to use, you know. Alright, my camera overheated. So that's why we're out further from her. Okay, this lipstick, I'll have to put it in the down. Okay, she's being hard to handle now. She said that I used a lip brush on her and she said it tickled. She couldn't stand it. So I sanitized the lipstick and tried to go straight in with the bullet, and she still was flinching. She picked out this color, and so we went with that first. I was pretty sure that once she got an opportunity to check this out, check this lip color out in the mirror, she was gonna veto this lip color, because this was more color on her face than I've ever seen. So I'll show you how I'm going to take care of that in a minute. All right, I'm just perfecting the lip line. it wasn't, the application wasn't perfect. There was some chit-chat going on while I was trying to apply that. Her friend has arrived, so you'll notice she's getting a little more animated. There we go. Bringing it down some. Bring it on down. Gonna need another selfie. I think I may have applied, while the camera was cooling down, I believe I used the Lorac Pro Contour kit, the powder one, not a cream. And yeah, and I did. You can see that I bronzed up her face. I did not put any blush on her. Her cheeks, the rosiness came through. Oh, I just now used the Night Moth on her tight line. Okay, she liked it. I was really surprised. It was a pleasant surprise. Okay, now I'm using the Dermablend translucent powder. It looks like all of those powders. It's real white and it's very blurring. I believe I have some bronzer. Well, I'm not sure. I guess that's still some foundation in that brush, and I was just making sure she was blended through her jawline. And there's the Jaclyn Hill palette again. All right, so I was looking at her and I was thinking that it just wasn't enough. There. I wanted that crease. I took a real rusty color from the second row. She's got wide set eyes. That's where I was going with this. There. That really added a lot. She has wide set eyes, and I didn't want her eyes being so bright in the front and there not being any color in the front was making her eyes look even further set apart. So I brought some of that rusty color to the front. Warmed it all up. Okay, she's being cooperative now. See, her eyes don't look so far apart now. That is a feature of many models is wide set eyes. That's something. Okay, I took a brush that had a tiny bit of concealer on it to bring down those lips a little bit, so she wouldn't be alarmed when she went to go see the final look. There we go. Now, time for more selfies. At this point, I'm getting the curling iron set up. I asked her if she wanted a beach wave, and she was uncertain whether she trusted that I would give her a true beach wave or whether I would make her look like Shirley Temple or Betty Boop or whatever. I guess what she was picturing was a beauty pageant contestant or a bride or something. Anyway, so I'm using the new Babyliss Pro. Is that what it's called? It's called a Babyliss Pro Professional 430 degree Fahrenheit 1 1/4 curling iron with porcelain ceramic. So I sectioned off her hair and sprayed, well, before I sectioned it off, I sprayed the whole thing with the workable hairspray from Aveda. Then I sectioned it off and sprayed the bottom layer. She had gone through and flat ironed it before I got there, so she was dubious as to whether I could make it curl or not. Anyway, that's what we got so far. Now we're lined up a little better. So, yeah, quickly going through it and not holding it in long, sectioning it off, make most of it going curled away from her face, some of it curled toward her face on the back and sides so that the curls wouldn't nest in each other and become, you know, one big doodle curl. We're almost done. These pieces, see, I let it go really quick so it leaves a, oops, there we go, there we go. So it leaves a real loose wave. Usually these pieces in the front are overworked. You know, they get styled the most, they get colored the most, they get so much wear and tear that they won't hold a curl anymore. It's like all their memory is gone. So I held it a little longer in the front and my theory was disproved. The elbow in the picture is her friend. Her friend has arrived now, and so this is a lot more fun for her now. See? Also, at this point, her wiggling and me with a hot iron around her. Yeah, and dancing. The music's getting louder. I'm just focusing as hard as I can to make her come out. Look cute and not burn her. Ta-ta. I hope this was fun. See y'all soon.
What's wrong with being confident?